Let's get it on. UCLA versus UConn. Yes, what a matchup. In this video, we are going to go through all of the matchups, in fact, including the point spread, the X factors, who might surprise in this game, and the chess match, which might take place in this game, which should be fantastic. Before we start, if you enjoy the content, then please consider subscribing to the channel and giving the video a like. All right, let's get into this. Now, first, let's start by going down degenerate corner. Some don't like this, but I do. So UConn is minus 8.5. So yes, the Sharps like UConn. Or is this the case that UConn's a public team? If you know anything about betting in the sports books, it's all about balancing the books and getting betting on equal sides. So is the public going with UConn because they're a favored public team, and therefore to get the books more equal, they have to increase the line? That's potentially the case in this, because I'm surprised that UConn is favored minus 8.5. I thought the line would be a lot closer than that. I thought it would be sort of like minus 5, maybe minus 3.5 for UConn. As well, in case you're interested, the over-under is 135.5. Now, the intriguing thing about this matchup is actually the matchup. So we'll start with the backcourt and then move to the front court. So in the backcourt, it's going to be AZ Fudd and Paige Bueckers. Obviously, I think going against Gabrielle Jaquez, and Kiki Rice. The question is, Paige Bueckers in all likelihood will get hers. Like, she's on a genuine heater and crushing things. She went for her 40-point game, her 30-point game, and she's getting it done. There's no doubt that she is on a hot streak and being her usual efficient self. The question is AZ Fudd. So in the last two games, AZ has shot 25% from the floor, going 7 for 27, and from the three-point line, 3 for 11, which is 27%. And all year, it's been a thing with AZ Fudd. Usually she's playing pretty well, will attack the basket in the Big East games, but she can clearly be hot and cold. If she's on a heater, then look out. She single-handedly destroyed South Carolina when she got hot in the second half and ended that game. But then she's also had games where she can't hit anything, much like the USC game, the last one, where she was like, I think she was like 3 for 11 or something like that. Now, I suspect in this game that they'll put Jaquez on Paige Bueckers, and I think Kiki Rice will be on AZ Fudd. That's my best guess, but they can really go back and forth with those two, and they might intermix it during the game. I do think London Jones will start this game. I think they'll want her experience out on the court, and it's obvious that they would put London Jones on Caitlin Chin and KK Arnold when she comes in. Now, the other interesting thing to keep your eye on, UCLA and UConn met in the Cayman Island tournament. I watched that again today. Boy, Cayman Island, the scuba diving's beautiful. I had to watch the ads when I was watching the replay of the game. Beautiful, the Caymans. But anyway, watching that, Kiki Rice, got off in that game. So Kiki Rice went for 24 points, 9 of 15 from the floor, and went 2 for 4 from 3. And when they were guarding her, UConn was going under the picks all the time. They were letting her have the three-point shot, and she punished them. I'm curious to see if UConn does the same thing, or they try to fight over the picks, or if they try to switch everything just to make sure that they're guarding the three-point line. I suspect that's what they'll do, is really be intent on making sure UCLA does not get off from the three-point line. In that UConn game versus UCLA at the Cayman Islands, UCLA shot 45% from the floor and 48% from the three-point line. If UCLA shoots 48% from the three-point line, then they're winning this game, in my opinion. I think that's a bit of a Captain Obvious statement. That shooting combined with Lauren Betts, that's pretty much unstoppable, and that will be the big thing in this game. The other major battle in the backcourt is going to be the turnover battle, and that will be interesting to see. Arnicello, at times she's had a tendency to turn over the ball. Will UConn be able to turn over UCLA? just by keeping their guards fresh, because UConn is basically able to rotate in 5 players. Obviously, they're the 3 starters of Fudd, Chin, and Beckers, and then they can rotate in KK Arnold and Ashlyn Shade. And KK Arnold has done a really good job of putting on ball pressure and will UCLA turn it over. Now, against LSU, UCLA was good against ball pressure. So in the first half, they only had 5 turnovers, hence why they were up and outscored LSU in the first half, 31-25. But then in the second half, they had 10 turnovers and only outscored them by 1 point. It was 40-41 in UCLA's favor. So I think that's going to be a major key in the game, because if they turn over the ball, especially live ball turnovers, that's going to allow UConn to get in their transition game, and they are deadly in the transition game because their 3-point shooters spot up and just crush you. That's what Gottlieb was saying. She's like, that's what we're doing wrong here. We cannot have the turnovers because that just lets UConn crush us in the transition game. Now let's move on to the bigs in those matchups. The first one, El Alfie, Jana El Alfie. Will she be able to hold up to Lauren Betts? It's interesting. Like, El Alfie's best game was versus South Carolina, and then since then it's been up and down. She moves well. I can see a scenario. I can see it going two ways for Jana. One would be she plays her well. She's big. She's pretty mobile, and that can give Betts trouble at times. Akinwafu for USC gave Betts a lot of trouble, and a lot of that was just her size. So that's one potential. The other one with El Alfie is she can get in foul trouble quickly. Like, she's just too aggressive. I can see another scenario where she gets in foul trouble and limited and just essentially using her fouls and not a factor in the game. Like, they can't use her. The other thing that factors in this is how much help will UConn give El Alfie. Is it going to be the guards are going to be coming back and swiping at the ball? I imagine there'll be a lot of doubling up, much like USC did against Betts, but it's how much are they going to sell out? Or is UConn going to say, hey, we'll let Betts get her points, but we want to make sure that Kiki Rice and Jaquez and their other 3-point shooters don't go off. We're more focused on that, and we're happy to give up the 2 points and make Lauren work for it if El Alfie can play her hard straight up. It'll be fascinating to watch. The other thing that goes into this is the shooting for Sarah Strong, because that will impact everything. If Sarah Strong is shooting her 3-point shot well, so she shot 37% on the season. The last 10 games, she's been shooting 40% from 3. If you're a UCLA fan, you might point to in away games, I think she's only shooting 24%. So how is she going to shoot? I mean, flip a coin. But if she shoots her shots initially well, much like she did versus USC, then that really changes the game, because then UConn could be inclined to say, okay, let's try to go small and see if Sarah Strong can hold up on Lauren Betts. And then on offense, we're just going to throw Betts into pick and roll with Strong and Beckers, and it'll be UCLA choose your poison. Yeah, you're going to bury Strong on the inside and get her points, but we'll swarm her. But at the same time, every time we come down, we're going to run a bit of pick and roll with Page and Strong, and that guarantees us, we'll trade our 3 for your 2s, basically. Now, to start off the game, I think it's going to be obviously El Alfie on Betts, and then it'll be Strong on Duglic. UCLA, they're so loaded up front. It must be nice for them, because will Duglic's height give Strong trouble? If Strong is too athletic for Duglic, then they're able to go to the bench and grab Barker, and Barker can fend off the drives from Sarah Strong if that's what the problem is. So it's really nice to be UCLA with all that depth in the front court they have. And that will be a major thing to watch at. With Duglic, look for Sarah Strong to try to poke a few balls away. That's a really underrated thing with Strong. She has really good hands and is constantly knocking the ball away from players. And that's the thing, if she's guarding Betts as well in the post, if she's doing that, look for her to try to get her hands in and poke it in to see if she can grab it off of Betts. Now, the real X factor for UConn is Aubrey Griffin. She played 8 minutes versus USC. I don't know what's going on with her knee. I don't know if she'll be available both halves or if they're going to limit her just to the second half. But ideally, if she could play, I wonder if she might match up with Gardner. I could see a scenario where Gardner comes in and Griffin matches her minutes basically, and they want to make sure that Gardner doesn't get off in that game. The other thing is I mentioned, if Sarah Strong does hit her outside shots and UConn does go small, then you could see a scenario where they have Strong at the 5, Griffin at the 4 on one of the UCLA bigs, and then it would be Paige Beckers, and then it could be AZ Fudd and another one of the guards, and that would work well for them. That would give UConn potentially enough size to compete, and that might be a tough lineup for UCLA. Or the other option of that is UCLA is able to punish UConn with their size. So that's the chess match of this game, and that's why I think it's so hard to call. Now, the next thing I want to look at for this game are the wild cards. And basically, the wild cards are the unexpected players that could go off. Could Gardner go off again from three-point land and hit 8 3-pointers or something like that? You could see that. Or London Jones. Those would be the ones for UCLA that more than unexpected points, because London Jones can get on a heater very, very fast and do a lot of damage. And then on the opposite side for UCLA, I think the one you wonder about is Ashlyn Shade. Could Ashlyn Shade come out with a heater in a game of her life? And then Back to Sports would have to eat it again, because I say she always... I criticized her early in the season saying she doesn't play well in big games, and then she really helped UConn versus South Carolina to get them going early on in that game. So that would be it. The other one, Ice Brady. Ice hasn't hit many outside shots this year. She struggled with her shot, but last year versus USC, like, she had struggled all year, and then unexpectedly she hit like 2 or 3 outside shots, and she's such a confidence player. If she gets going, yeah, she can have a good night, and she might be that X player. The final one, which I really doubt, but it would be nice to see. I'm sure UConn fans would love it. Could Caroline Deschamps get minutes in this game? And if that happens, it's probably not going well for UConn. I think that would be a desperation move by Gino, just saying, we need to get more size in here to match up, and is this a way I can get us going? I don't expect it, but hey, it's a wild card, so why not throw it in there? Now, the last thing to consider is pressure. So both these teams are under pressure. Everybody wants to win. They're on a big stage, and they all want to do well. So I'm not saying that one team doesn't have any pressure, but I think they both have different types of pressure on them. So, or different things that they're facing. And really, it's a narrative that gets painted after the game, depending on who won or lost. So if UConn loses this game, it'll be Paige Beckers was under so much pressure. If she doesn't play well or play big, same thing with AZ Fudd. The pressure to get the championship piece was so immense that got to them, and that made it almost an impossible thing. And then the press conference afterwards will be, you can't define Paige on this loss, and her career is exceptional, and things like that. If UConn wins and UCLA goes down, then you can often see the scenario of, well, they were overwhelmed by the moment. They didn't have enough experience. It's their first Final Four, and those things happen. I think overall, there's definitely more pressure on UConn and Paige Beckers. It's her last chance to get the championship that she so dearly wants to make her legacy, where in a lot of ways, UCLA just making the Final Four, that is really, really big for Corey Close. That's a big breakthrough for UCLA, and they really have nothing to lose in this game in a lot of ways. Like, they've already made their season by getting to the Final Four. Now, I'm sure UCLA obviously wants to win the championship, and that's their goal, but getting past the Elite Eight was huge for UCLA, and slaying the dragon, which was LSU standing in their way. Now, in terms of my pick, I would not feel confident going one way or another, to be honest. I can see this game going either way. I really can. I can see UConn dominating and blowing out UCLA. I could see UCLA just slowly beating UConn on the boards and crushing them and coming home with the victory. Just by getting rebound after rebound and UConn having a poor shooting night and be limited to one shot and the pressure building. If I'm forced to make a pick, then I've got UCLA to cover the spread, and I think UCLA will win this game outright. And if you're a UConn fan, you should be excited by that pick, seeing the way I've picked these games. And much like last year, I picked USC to beat UConn last year, and I was wrong about that. So it's definitely nothing I'm confident about. I think, like I said, this game, I don't think UConn should be favored by 8.5. I think it's more like 3.5 or even getting close to a pick 'em in my opinion. But we'll see what happens. That's why they roll out the basketball. And, even though I'm picking UCLA, I'll be totally honest. I want UConn to win this game. Like I'm a UConn homer on this game, and it's I want to see the story play out of Paige Becker's going to the championship game and can she get the elusive championship, and I want that to continue. In a lot of ways, I see UCLA is Russia to UConn. This is the big game to get past. Like the United States had to get past Russia or USSR to get into the gold medal game in 1980. And people overlooked that they had to play, I think it was Finland, and Finland was good. And everybody overlooked that, and they got it done. But I think much like that, I think this is the big game for UConn. If they beat UCLA, then I think they'll take Texas or South Carolina just because they have so much off. I think they'll have enough scoring to be able to take them despite their really good defenses. Anyway, now it's over to you. If you think I missed anything or you want to give me poison about my pick or whatever, all your comments are welcome. I enjoy the feedback and even the banter. I usually come back at people. If they have a mean comment from me, I usually try to diffuse it with humor. That's generally my way. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll try to do a South Carolina Texas video tomorrow night. Have a good night.